also feel like you really need to be sure about your next move. Don't just jump the gun. Don't just take the first offer on the table. Of course, if you had another product that you love and you've always thought, like, if something happens here, I'm going there, sure, do it. Be that decision maker and go and make that happen. But if you're not sure or nothing is quite resonating with you or nothing feels good, don't go do something just because everyone else is, right? Like, give yourself the time and space to decide where you want to be. And of course, there's so many things that go into that decision, right? Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy you are here for this week's episode. And today's topic is not one that I was really looking forward to. I will be honest. I love to be a glass half cup full kind of girl. And generally, I'm pretty optimistic. And this topic keeps coming up over and over and over again. And I've had so many private conversations on how to navigate tricky situations when a company decides to restructure or close. And I haven't put it out there publicly because I think in my heart, I was hoping that it would stop happening. let's just be real. I think all of us have seen a lot of churn in the industry over the last year or so. And this topic keeps coming up over and over again, and it breaks my heart that we're kind of being forced into having conversations like this. But I also want it to be productive and helpful and maybe a little bit of a pep talk if you find yourself in a situation where your company has decided to close their doors or your company has eliminated part of their comp plan or changed their business structure and you're trying to figure out what to do next. So I am genuinely recording this episode with so much resistance because, again, it's a bummer. It really is. It's a bummer to see things happening in the industry when you know that there is a huge impact to really, really good people. Whew. All right, so here we go. So today's episode, we are talking about what to do in the situation that your company decides to really pivot, change their structure, or you quickly find out that your company is closing. And here's the thing, I'm not going to get into why this is happening. We're going to save that for another episode. I've shared some of my thoughts about some of the industry shifts and some predictions for this year on previous episodes, but I really want to talk more about what to do when it happens so you can be prepared and you can be positioned to set yourself up for the next opportunity. I am a big believer that when one door closes, another door opens. It's happened to me time and time again in my own businesses. And I know that there's hope and I know that there's good things on the other side of it. But if you're listening to this episode and this feels fresh and raw and real to you right now, I just want to encourage you that it only gets easier. It's really hard in the beginning. And I've been there. I've transitioned from one business to another where I had built a huge community and a huge team. And I stepped away from that to go do something else. And then I did that again and again and again. And each time it feels challenging. And I think there is kind of a grieving process that you have to go through, whether you're part of a direct sales company or you're part of your own business. But I think as pivots and changes happen, it's okay to sit with it and feel it and then figure out where you're going to pick things up and what you're going to do next. So we're going to get into some tactical things around like what you actually need to be doing in the first 24 hours of finding out that your company is making a change. Then we're going to talk a little bit more long-term about transition plans if you decide to make a shift and move to a different company or maybe do something totally different as well. Just we're going to talk about kind of all of that. Then I have a small piece at the end of this episode specifically to those that are watching this happen to other people. I think often, even with the best intentions, when you reach out to somebody after their company closes, it is not met with kindness. And so we're going to talk about some things that you can say, some things that you can do, maybe some things you should not do in order to kind of help someone else move forward if you are genuinely caring and reaching out to them. And then maybe even just like a small little segment at the end for any companies listening that might find themselves in this position. I kind of joked to our Academy VIP girls the other day that I said, gosh, I never envisioned I would need to write a blog post or record a video on how to nicely and kindly shut your company down. But I've seen some ugly things happen in the last little bit. And again, I'm not going to tell anyone's story because I don't know their story. I don't know what's happening in their corporate office. Even if it's clients that I've worked with personally, or I have done consulting with, or I've spoke on their stages. I mean, I really don't know. I don't see their finances. I don't know the ins and outs of their business. I am not in a position to tell somebody what they should or should not do. But I do have a strong point of view from a field perspective on how to feel respected and taken care of, even when faced with a closure or a business restructuring. Whew, okay, that's a lot. You guys with me on this? Okay, let's get to the basics first, right? So if you do find yourself in a position where your company is closing, restructuring, the number one thing that you need to do is immediately go download every report possible. Like before the tears come, before you get on the phone with your biz bestie, before the gossip mill starts, before people are coming at you from every direction, very tactically and logistically speaking, you need to go download all of your information. Even if your company says that they're going to be open for another 2 months, you need to go download all of your information right now. That really should be the very first thing. Hopefully, you are in a position where you've built a brand and you're leveraging your own CRM or your email marketing system or project broadcast for texting, and you have ways to reach out to your customers directly, hopefully beyond social media as well. But those client lists, those team reports, your commission history, all of those kinds of reporting would be the number one thing I would do the minute that there are rumblings that something is happening. And I think the reality is typically word leaks out a little bit sooner than a company can communicate it with the entire field, right? So even if you're hearing something swirling and you're not quite sure what's going on, go download those reports. Yeah, that would be a great first step. I know for some, you also have a VIP rewards program, or you have like cash, like an e-wallet, or some kind of either product or financial compensation that is kind of being held or gated behind your company's back office. Go get all that too. Don't leave any money in there or any product credit in there. I think we've all seen it happen before where, things just vanish and they're gone and the company can't do anything about it because they're closing their doors. So if you have a chance to redeem any of that before it's gone, those would be my top priorities. Okay. Then you're going to take a moment and you're going to process what just happened, and you're going to give yourself space to grieve and have a moment to yourself to just be with the news that you just received. Before everyone else gets in your head, before you're flooded with messages, before you feel like you need to communicate out to your team or to your customers, you need some me time, right? So just carve out a little bit of time and know that you're going to need that. I think some of the toughest things I've seen is when big announcements have been rolled out and people are working their day job and trying to teach in a classroom or be in a Zoom meeting or be professional in a corporate setting, and you're hearing things happening, and that's so hard because you don't have that time and space to process. So if you are able to, I would give yourself a minute just to pull yourself together and think through these next steps. So you're going to download all your things, you're going to redeem all your things, and then you're going to give yourself a minute to just let this news sink in before you jump out there and start communicating. Because when we're communicating and emotional, those don't go well together a lot of the time, right? We need to process for a minute first. Okay, the next thing on your list that you are going to do is you are going to craft a message to your team if you're a leader, right? If you're a leader, you're always a leader. People are looking at you, they are watching you. Even in terrible, heartbreaking situations like this, people are looking up at you to see how you are communicating, how you are managing your emotions, how you are showing up online. And so I think your team really, you owe it to them to talk to them first. Even if it's raw, even if it's icky, you just got to be there and you got to share what you know, stick to the facts. Don't make any assumptions, right? And a lot of times you're operating with limited information. I think it's okay to reiterate that. Like, I don't know any more than you, but I'm here with you and I feel you on this because I'm feeling it too, right? So communicating to your team, definitely a high priority. Then when you're ready, I think the next step is to communicate to your customers because direct sales tends to be a really small world. And oftentimes many of your customers are also direct sellers, or they start seeing things swirling around on the internet or on social media. And the last thing you want is a whole bunch of customers coming to you asking what's going on and you having to manage those conversations one by one. So your next move would be to put together a heartfelt message to your customer community. And you can basically reiterate whatever your company has told you. And it's okay to say that you don't know your next steps. I think typically the best messages I've seen like that are really just expressing gratitude. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for being part of my community. And there still will be a community. I don't know exactly what that looks like moving forward, but I want to stay connected with you and I want to keep you in the loop on my next steps and what my journey looks like and how things unfold from here. So I definitely would focus in on team first, then customer communication. And then again, I'm going to say it again, take some time for yourself, right? This is time for you to process, for you to let the news sink in, and for you to think about what you want to do next before jumping to anything next. And I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it a million times over. People are going to come for you, probably because you're a hot commodity and they think you're awesome, right? They are going to come for you and they're going to tell you about their business opportunity. And they're going to say it in a kind way most of the time, but they're going to reach out to you and opportunities are going to start showing up in your inbox. You're probably going to hear what your upline leader is doing, what your sideline leader is, what other people are doing in your community. And oftentimes, because we love our community so much, people move together in packs, right? Like I'm not going anywhere without my biz bestie. Wherever she goes, I'm going, right? So you kind of see this movement start happening or people kind of, parsing off into different groups where they're looking for where their next chapter is. And here's the thing about that. I do believe that there's a positive outcome when you move quickly, right? There is the chance that maybe you end up building a large team underneath you wherever you decide to go next. But I also feel like you really need to be sure about your next move. Don't just jump the gun. Don't just take the first offer on the table. Of course, if you had another product that you love and you've always thought, like, if something happens here, I'm going there. Sure, do it. Be that decision maker and go and make that happen. But if you're not sure or nothing is quite resonating with you or nothing feels good, don't go do something just because everyone else is, right? Like give yourself the time and space to decide where you want to be. And of course, there's so many things that go into that decision, right? It's the company culture and the community that they have. It's the products and making sure they're products that you love and you're passionate about. I hear stories all the time about people jumping ship and joining companies they've never even tried their products before. Like check out their products, make sure you like them. If you are a senior leader, you can play your cards there how you want, right? Like a lot of company executives will speak to you, they will meet with you, they will advise you. Oftentimes they'll even offer you something pretty incredible to come to their company. So typically you need to have a large team and be a high performer to be in that kind of situation, but they call that a bridge income, where you might be supplemented with free product or even some extra cash. As you're making this transition, oftentimes there's also some performance objectives that come along with that. These are the things that aren't often talked about publicly, but happen behind the scenes. And certain companies are known to do things like that more so than others. So I'm not going to name anyone. I'm just going to leave it right there. But know that if you are a top leader with a large team, you may have a little bit more opportunity and leverage to ask for what you want, to come in at a certain level, to receive a certain level of commission, to be direct to company if that's important to you. And so you don't have somebody else as an upline, but you're direct to the company's executives. So you have a little bit of leverage when you're in a top leadership role. So I would just take your time deciding where you want to land. And you're going to get great offers. Companies are going to invite you to join them for free. Companies are going to give you great packages to come along with them. You're going to get spoiled with all kinds of free products. So you have options. And that's if you decide to stay in the direct sales space, which even though if you're finding out that your company just made some massive move or is in fact closing their doors, you're probably going to feel a little burned. Let's just be real. Like, you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth. But I also want to encourage you that the reason why we love direct sales is because it's pretty darn special, right? That we have these incredible communities and incredible people, and we have the flexibility, and there are so many benefits to being in the direct sales space that you don't get in other positions. So even if right now you're feeling a little ick about direct sales, and I'll be real, I'm feeling a little ick about what I'm seeing happening right now, right? And that's a bummer place to be, where it's kind of like, oh man, this does not give us a good look. No, it does not. But I want to encourage you that new companies are sprouting up every day. There are new opportunities. The industry is alive and well. And even if it can feel like at times that, wow, that company closed, that company restructured, that company is doing this, that company is doing that, there are still great companies out there. There are great companies with great comp plans, great benefits, incredible communities. I see that firsthand in the work that I get to do each and every day. So take your time deciding where you want to land, and don't give up on direct sales, because it's a great place. It really is. And it's a great place to learn and grow, and then maybe even step into your own entrepreneurial venture. I see that happen a lot for direct sellers, that a lot of things it happened to me, right? Like, I was in the field, I was a leader, I was doing all of those things. And I took what I learned and I channeled that into my own small business. And I've grown that small business. So I feel like direct sales is such a great training ground to equip you with those skills that you need for whatever your next move is. Just know that you have options. Don't let anyone tell you that this is like the only offer on the table, that you are valuable and people are going to want you to be a part of what they're doing. So don't feel like you have to make a move immediately, right? You don't have to give anyone any answers right away. You can simply respond to incoming messages saying, thanks so much, I have a lot to consider right now, and I'll be in touch. It can be as simple as that. You don't have to go into detail. You don't have to tell people how you're feeling. You don't have to do any of that. You can literally just say, thanks so much for sending that over. I will happily consider it and be back in touch, and leave it at that, right? And then when you're ready to make a move, you're looking at all the things. You're looking at the company, the culture, the community. You're looking at the comp plan. You're looking at the products. You're looking at what makes most sense for you and that lifestyle that you're working to build. All right. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is if you know of other people that have had companies close or are leaving their company or looking for other opportunities. And we see things online like, oh, here come the vultures, right? And I see kind of both sides of this. Of course, you want to let people know that you're thinking of them and that you care about them and you're empathetic. Because if it happened to you, you'd want people to be doing the same thing. And many of you have been there before. You've been with companies that have closed and you've rebuilt and you've opened new chapters. And I think it's comforting to hear those stories when someone might be navigating something like this for the first time. So I think it's great to send a quick message and say, hey, I'm thinking of you. Can't believe it. Heartbroken for you. You're on my heart. You're in my prayers. I'm wishing all the best for you. I don't think you need to give them a sales pitch. Like, please don't give them a sales pitch. Just let them know that you're thinking of them. If it's somebody that you're closer with, that, maybe has shopped with you before, or you've done business together, you've collaborated together. Your people, when it's the appropriate time to say, like, hey, if you ever wanted to partner with me, I would be so flattered and we would have so much fun together. But you don't need to get into the details. Don't send over the comp plan. Don't send over all the things. You should be leading with empathy. We are in a relationship business, right? Show people, tell them that you care, but you don't need to leap into business, right? So relationship first, business second, especially if it's not something that somebody you've talked to for a while, right? If it's been a while since you guys have talked, like, they'll come to you if they're interested in what you have to offer. But if it's someone that you've actively been building a relationship with or has asked you questions about the business opportunity before, by all means, open up and share a little bit about that side of the business. Okay. The other thing that I just want to mention is that I think when things like this happen, it's easy, and I see it from a million miles away, to put a post out online that says something like, thinking of all my friends at this company right now. And I don't love that, to be honest. I think that it's a little bit of like a publicity stunt because some people are like, well, wait, what's happening with them? And then other people are like, oh, like, was that a self-serving post or was that a genuine post? So in my opinion, it's not something that we just like air out on social media and get attention from, because oftentimes those types of posts are perceived to be like the grass is greener over here, come over on my side, when other people are genuinely hurting. So I don't love those blanket posts, and I see them all the time. And one person does it and then, 400 other people on their team copy it. So I would just say to show up as your genuine, authentic self. Take the high road, share what you love about your own business. You don't need to call out anyone or any company because, again, it's not your business and you don't know their story. You don't know exactly what has happened behind the scenes. And I think that's where rumors get started and people are like, none of this was ever communicated from the company. It's all rumorville, which is not a good use of your energy, right? A good use of your energy is reaching out to people one-on-one, telling them that you genuinely care for them, showing up and building your personal brand, being genuine, being empathetic, and not calling out any company for things that are happening in their world. So just a little pet peeve of mine. And last but not least, if you are on the corporate side and listening and have any influence of how companies decide to announce closures, I know it's tricky. And I've kind of seen the inside of it also. Like I know that this is not an easy decision. It's not taken lightly. And there's kind of, two different ways to go about it. It's okay, we're going to wind down over the course of a couple of months, or like it's a sudden like happening right now, doors, it's over and that's it, right? I will say that from a sales field perspective, out of respect for those people that have boots on the ground, been out there building your business for you for years, give them some notice. And I know that those are going to be some ugly couple of weeks as you're winding down, but I feel like you really owe it to them to give them some time to process, give them some time to help you move the inventory that you have, give them some time to download their contact information, to redeem their rewards, all of those kinds of things. That's important. So again, I don't, you can pass it on to the powers that be. Hopefully, nobody's listening to this right now thinking, oh, our company's about to close. How are we going to go about doing it? But I do think that there is a way to do it, and you can do it with integrity, and ethics are involved, and all of those things that really factor into how you treat your people. So that's just quick 2 cents on that. And I will say, I'm excited to share in a future episode Jen Bonacorsi from J. Bloom Designs is going to come on. And I've had the privilege of working with them for the last, over a year, 2 years now. And I also got to be a little behind the scenes as they acquired Plunder. So I saw transitions happening in real time. And from a company perspective, I feel like it was one of the most well done transitions I have ever seen before, because it gave a soft place to land for all of those people that were coming over from Plunder. They got to keep their team. They got to keep their customers. Like there was so much grace and beauty to it. So I'm going to have Jen come on and share a little bit about what that looked like and how that happened. And I know that can't always be the case for all companies, but I do feel like in the case of a company closing their doors, I mean, it was a beautiful solution to a terrible situation. We'll just leave it that way, because they were able to come over and they were able to be supported. And of course, there's transitions and there's grief and there's all the things and all the emotions that come in between. But from a business perspective, it kept continuity, which I think was really important. So look for that coming soon as well. And I might have a few others that are going to be coming on the podcast and talking about transitions they've had in their own business and how they've navigated those and how they've supported others as they've navigated transitions. Because let's just be real, it is happening, whether we like it or not, whether I wanted to record this podcast episode or not. And the more you can do to be proactive and prepared and supportive and looking out for each other in times of hardship, I think is really, really important. Okay, I lied. One final last word. If you're listening right now and you're thinking, oh, my company would never close their doors, that's not something we would ever do. I just want to let you know that you're probably right. You're probably right. And again, I'm the optimist over here. And it's really important for you to kind of safeguard yourself. So if by chance something crazy happens and your company does end up restructuring or closing, I want to look out for you. So a couple of things that I definitely would do and be proactive about. You want to own your customer contact information, right? Whether it's email or text or downloading an address book, whatever that might be, you want to have that contact information. You also want to build your own personal brand. This is why it's so important not to just pigeonhole yourself as, the girl that sells this or the guy that sells that or the person that reps this brand. You want to build out your personal brand. And so if you do decide to pivot, whether it's your choice or not, you have this beautiful brand that people love and they've been following. And so whether you're doing that with a tool like Oh My Hi, or if you're checking out our personal branding course or building beyond social media, all of those things are there to help you develop the brand, your own brand and who you are, right? Yeah, you are selling and representing a product or for a company, but you're more than that, right? People want to hear about your personal life. And I see it time and time again when people make transitions, their customers follow them. Like, in fact, it happened to me when I moved from books to clothing. People followed me because they liked shopping with me, right? And a lot of them landed in the academy and now work with me on that side of things. So people connect with you personally. And the more you can build that personal brand and the more you can own that contact information, the better it is going to be for you in the case that something ever does happen with your company. And again, I wish that upon no one. I hope that none of you have to navigate that or deal with it. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had in the last 6 months or so as people have been trying to figure out what's next for them. That's the last thing I'm going to leave you with. And I think I've said last thing 4 times now, but clearly this is a topic that I'm a little passionate about, even though I did not want to do this podcast. If you are finding yourself in a place of transition, send me a message, honestly. Like, whether you're in the academy, whether we've worked together and you've spent money with me before or not, send me a message. I am happy to provide you an unbiased, outside perspective as you're navigating what's next for you. I'm not going to pitch you on a coaching program. I mean, you can come do coaching with me if you want, but if you want to just send me a message on Instagram at Modern Direct Seller and say, hey, this was my business. This is what I was doing. I'm trying to decide what's next. These are the options I'm looking at. What do you think? Like, I am here for that. I am 100% here for that. I am so passionate about this industry and small business owners and entrepreneurs and direct sellers and all of you listening right now that I would love to support you as you are trying to make those decisions, especially if you feel like you just need kind of an outside person, right? Like, yeah, your upline, your biz bestie, like, they're all going to have kind of biased opinions of where to go and what to do next. But if you just want someone on the outside, I am more than happy to chat with you and help you figure that out. So, all right, we made it. We made it through this episode a little bit less cheery than my typical podcast. If somehow you landed on this episode, it was the first thing you've ever heard me say. Know that I am a little bit more upbeat most of the time, and we have lots of good training. So I would love to see you back here for a future podcast episode. Don't let this be the only one you listen to. We have good things happening. I look forward to seeing you next week for the podcast. All right. Until then, let's get out there and make it a great day. Bye, everyone. This episode is sponsored by CintShare. CintShare is the #1 social media scheduler for direct sellers and loved by creators in any industry. It's truly your one-stop shop for all things social. Join hundreds of thousands of social sellers and entrepreneurs who turn to CintShare for free social media training and resources. Get started today with your free 30-day trial at moderndirectseller.com/CintShare.